Welcome to Cybersecurity District, the podcast where we interview the most inspiring minds in the cybersecurity industry. Get ready to meet our next guest in the district.
I know, yeah, and I was really looking forward to have you on the show. It's a real pleasure, and I'm especially excited to speak with you because you've been in the industry for so long, but especially as a fellow cyber entrepreneur to also hear about your story and about your entrepreneurial journey, and that you already were able to sell 2 companies. And with Censornet, I believe you're really building something very cool again. So there might be a 3rd exit in the making. So I just want to pick your brain a little and hear more about your stories.
It's a pleasure.
Super exciting. And maybe we can start at the beginning. Like, how did you even start in cybersecurity? That was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
What was it like then?
Well, cybersecurity, was pretty almost in its infancy 25 years ago. So what people were worried about were viruses in those days. That was kind of one of the biggest threats. And that sort of landscape was really driven to a large extent by what we used to call script kiddies. So these were youngsters writing code just to really show off, and show that they were cool and clever and they could disrupt things. And so in the early days, cybersecurity was really centered around antivirus, and it wasn't too difficult to block. But what we've seen over time, over that sort of 25-year sort of time span, is that the people who originally started have morphed. So what's actually happened is that malware, or the creation of malware, is now driven for different purposes. So some of those purposes could be for financial gain. And we've obviously seen this huge rise in ransomware over the last few years. But also it's being done to disrupt organizations. And some of this is being carried out at a nation state level, shall we just say.
Yeah, so has elevated quite a lot. What was for you the time that you thought, okay, this cybersecurity is really gonna blow up? And what was for you the moment that you thought, okay, I want to start a career and focus fully on cybersecurity?
I think it was really around the time of the NotPetya, or the I Love You virus, that came out back in, I think that was 2001. And this was probably the first exploit that had a very rapid worldwide impact. And every organization practically was affected. And I remember, I was at a dinner party talking to a head of security for a bank. And I said, how is this affecting you? He said, we're not affected at all. I said, really? I'm amazed. How have you managed to avoid being infected or affected? And he said, we've just turned everything off. So effectively, I think what he was trying to say was that they've stopped the infection spreading by turning everything off. But the fact that all of their systems were down for 2 days really does show the impact of this exploit.
And that was kind of your cue, like, okay, this is something I need to invest in.
I think I'd always viewed it as important, but that was really the pivotal moment. And you thought, actually, what we're doing is so critically important for any size of organization. And I want to focus on this.
Oh, super cool. And not too long after you really dive into this side of the IT landscape, and not long after you start with Marshal, that was your first venture, or you didn't start, but you had sort of a buyout. Can you explain a bit what your strategy was around that?
Well, it was interesting that I started working for Marshal, which was a New Zealand-based startup that provided email security and web security. And the technology was super cool. But then we were acquired by NetIQ. And the person who led the transaction from NetIQ left not long after completing the acquisition. So in a way, we were sort of left adrift inside this larger company. And I found it very, very frustrating, not because there weren't some good people. There were some great people in NetIQ, but nobody really understood why they'd bought Marshal or what they were going to do with it. So I ended up running that business within NetIQ. And it just got more and more frustrating because there wasn't any investment in the Marshal product set, which had been always class leading. And eventually, I managed to persuade NetIQ to sell Marshal, and I led a management buyout. And that was probably, it was one of the most exciting times in my life, in that, there were just 6 of us in the early days. Yet we had a global business and customers all over the globe that we had to support, and we had to recreate the development team, which we did back in New Zealand. It was a tremendously exciting time, and I was lucky to work with some absolutely great people on that journey.
Wow. That's a hell of a move you made there. But what was it like then to all of a sudden be an entrepreneur, and did you have to lead a team, and it's also on a global scale? Or were you always interested to become an entrepreneur?
I guess, in my heart of hearts, I was always interested in becoming an entrepreneur. But I think for me, I just learned so much, and you never stop learning. That's my view. But I had to learn a lot in a very, very short space of time. But by having some great people around me, it made life easier. And if I look back, I think, build the best team you can build. That's the key. It's never just down to one individual.
Okay. And do you have other advice for people, maybe young people that have been in cybersecurity for a couple of years and might also contemplate moving towards a career in entrepreneurship? Are there takeaways that you now know, but that you wish you knew back then when you started or got the buyout with Marshal?
I think one of the most important things is to actually get support. Find mentors. Typically, one mentor probably isn't enough, but you've got to try and be honest about your skill set, know what you're good at, know what you're not good at, and have people around you who can help you in the areas that you may not be as strong at.
And how do you find your weak spots and your strong spots?
Well, I think self-knowledge, but it goes back to finding a mentor, and that mentor or somebody who helps you doesn't necessarily have to have skills in your specific field. They just need to be able to actually analyze, and of course you've got to have your ears open as well. You've got to be willing to listen, and sometimes that can be a hard thing when you hear things that you might not want to hear about yourself.
Yeah, my girlfriend also is an entrepreneur, and she's been doing it for 2.5 years. But she said, for me, it's the biggest mirror I've ever gotten, because you're always seeing like your strong suits, your weak spots, and it hits you at times where you don't expect it. All of a sudden, things show up. It's like, that's a tough one.
I think it is a mirror that you hold up to yourself, and you need to look at. And but you can't be too self-critical, because you wouldn't do anything if that was the case.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. I think that's very insightful for the next generation of entrepreneurs. And if we go back to Marshal, because you mentioned before we started the recording that you were able to turn the business around quite quickly, so that you have been able to, within 2 years, really boost the revenue a lot. And then at some point there was the opportunity to sell the company.
What we wanted to do was really put Marshall on the world stage, and that was the goal. And I really wanted to build the best company we could possibly build, because I thought we were doing something very important, and we were. At the time, our Mail Marshal email security product was kind of the best in the market, and we wanted everyone to know about it and use it. And at the time, there was also a form factor change in the way that email security, especially, was delivered. It was going from on-prem or on-premise type solution where you had Mail Marshal sitting on a server to the cloud. And that was a really exciting and interesting transition. And ultimately, it was one that I think for Marshall we came too late at, and that was really down to the investing landscape and not being able to deploy enough capital to build this cloud infrastructure, which is what we needed to build.
And then it was about time to sort of find a sugar daddy or something to really take it to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately, we merged that with a US business called 86 Technologies, and then sold that to Trustwave.
And what advice do you have for company founders in the cybersecurity space that might want to sell? Like how, because you've sold 2 companies sort of, so how do you find the right moment, and how do you discover what's the right price?
I think I guess I always think about our employees and our shareholders, and in that order, because it's got to be the right thing for our employees, and then it's got to be the right thing for the shareholders, and then it's got to be the right thing for you personally. And if you think about the employees, these are people who have worked really, really hard. They've put those long hours in. If you've got the right team about you, they're passionate. They go the extra mile to make things happen. So you need to make sure that what you're going to do is a benefit to them, whether it's financial or going into a better, larger organization where they can spread their story more widely. So those are going to be the benefits, or maybe it gives them the opportunity to develop their careers. And then, of course, you look at your shareholders, and your shareholders are looking for a return. These are people who've put faith in you. They've put faith in your vision. So you want to be able to deliver for those people as well.
Yeah. And then with the price, I think that's so interesting to how does a valuation come about, and how do you shake hands eventually? It's such a wonderful and scary moment.
How does a valuation come about? It's always a very difficult one.
It must be stressful, right? People think it's so lovely, but it must be nerve-wracking.
It can be nerve-wracking. And, I remember when we were selling SaaS ID, our second business, and, trying to come up with a valuation for that. And I remember going into a meeting to talk about this with the acquirer. And they said, "What do you want for the business?" And I gave them a number, and they said, "Fine." So, was that too low? Ultimately, was that too low? But
I'm afraid it wasn't too low.
Exactly. But it was a really good outcome for our employees. It was a really good outcome for our shareholders. And maybe, I'm not sure, it was a brilliant outcome longer term for the vision of the product, because sometimes when you go into a larger organization, what you do is diluted, obviously. But it was a good outcome, and I'm still proud of that deal. And ultimately, I think the acquiring company was happy. Our employees were happy. In general, they've all gone to do bigger and better things in their career, and I think our shareholders were happy.
Yeah, no, great. Thanks for your insight. And that was then already the second sort of exit.
Yeah.
But then some people would say, okay, I'm just kind of take it down a notch and relax a bit more. But I think something was burning inside you, and now you are working on the third venture already.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. It was when we'd sold the second company. The company that acquired us was Intermedia, and a really cool company, very focused now on unified communications and productivity suites for SMB. And while I was there, the more I looked at it, the more I realized that the SMB sector was really underserved for security. They had the same security challenges as large enterprises. They didn't have the resources to actually, secure themselves. You had this huge gap between consumer products, which weren't really strong enough for business, and the large enterprise security products, which were too complex, too costly for smaller enterprises. So that was really the genesis of the Censornet vision. And I met Tim Lloyd and Dan Searle, who were developing this secure web gateway. And between us, we came up with this vision for creating a platform that would really solve the needs of the SMB for cybersecurity. So that was the journey we started on some, I think probably 9 years ago nearly now. And, as I say, the rest is history, but it's not history because it never stops actually. So.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people see that the SMB sector is sort of underserved, but it's mainly they don't want to invest the time, they don't want to invest the money, they cannot use the expensive tools. So I think a lot of people actually saw there's a need, but how were you guys able to fill in that need at a cost efficient way?
Yeah, well, that really comes down to Tim Lloyd's vision. So Tim is our head of R&D, chief software architect. It was his vision how to deliver this. And that was really, there was a huge amount of focus, and there still is a huge amount of focus for us on simplifying user interfaces and making things much, much easier to deploy. That doesn't mean the products aren't complex. They are incredibly complex. And you have an additional level of complexity to make things simple. So, you think about it, we've got to make sure that our user interface is intuitive and it's simple to actually understand. But there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into making that user interface simple. And I think as we go on and we leverage the power of AI, we're going to be simplifying it even further.
And do you simplify it for the IT people, or should it even be user friendly for somebody in HR or somebody from finance?
Absolutely, it should be user friendly for everybody who needs to interact with the system. And I think that as we evolve further, and we start using some of these. And today we do use AI tools, but as we build further, why can't you just talk and say, show me all the threats that are to do with X, and the system will present it. Or say, I want to block everything that looks like this. And that is really where we're going now. So I am so excited about what's happening in the future.
Yeah, I think you're also doing a really good job if you look at the amount of users, and again it's widespread. I think there are big plans to expand even further. There's new capital also, so I think the ambition is still there after all these years, maybe even at the peak of your ambition.
We're still on our journey. We've still got a lot to do. I'm really proud that we've got over 1 million of users on the platform. We see billions of events every day, and we protect many thousands of organizations today. We want to carry on doing that. We want to build bigger and better and be able to serve our customers and protect them from some of those nasty threats that are out there today.
Yeah, yeah. There are more and more attacks coming our way, most likely. And if you said with the mission is to go bigger, serve more customers. Before you also said for me it's really important to focus on the employees. How did you always go about with building this team of both entrepreneurial people that a lot of is uncertain in the beginning, everything is new if you're building a startup, but how do you go about finding people that can dwell well in such an environment? Like how do you get the right people on the bus for a startup?
Yeah, how do you get the right people on the bus? Effectively, you've got to end up with people who share the vision or buy into the vision and are able to execute on that vision as well. Sometimes you're lucky that in that you're able to take people from larger companies, but people who still have that fire in their belly, who really want to make a difference. And some people you're lucky enough to be able to grow alongside you.
And did you become better as a hiring manager? I've also hired people, and some were great, some were not so great. But you start with the intention, like this person could become great. But
We always start with the intention that to
yeah.
become great. I think potentially I'm better at hiring now than I was 20 years ago. I hope so. I really
Yeah.
hope so. But
Well, what can you teach us over those years?
I think, one of the things that I think about a lot is I hire for attitude. I want people who have the right attitude. Some of the skills you can give them or you can help them develop, but it's hard to develop attitude.
And how do you measure that during an interview?
I think it comes with experience. I don't think there's any metric I can look at and think, okay, does that person hit this, check this button or check this box for attitude? It's very difficult. But, we are lucky that we actually have a team of people who've got a really winning attitude. They want to do more. And I think that's evidenced by things like our customer satisfaction rating, where our customers rate us very, very highly for support. Our net retention metrics are super strong for the industry. In actual fact, they're benchmark for the industry now, they're class leading. And that's really about the passion that we've built in our people, or the passion that our people actually show, and the fact that we go the extra mile to service our customers, keep them happy, and help them be successful.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. I like that. And I wanted to pick your brain a little bit and maybe ask a challenging question. But if you had to start like a fourth venture next Monday, what do you find a very interesting topic currently within the cybersecurity space that you see, okay, there's so much opportunity?
I think privacy is going to be the next big thing. And I think it's privacy for individuals, obviously, and organizations as well. Today, we've given away so much of our privacy. We've traded it for functionality. If you think that social media has become so pervasive now, and what have we done? It doesn't cost us anything, we think, but we've traded our privacy, we've traded our likes, and I think we've traded almost elements of our personality for functionality, and we will look to get that back at some point.
And think, where did we go wrong? Why did we do this?
It's shiny pebbles. We look at those shiny pebbles on the beach and follow them and pick them up.
Do you think this current venture, Censornet, which is doing really, really good, so I'm looking forward to follow the journey. But do you think this is going to be the last venture, or maybe there's something related to privacy that's going to be home run number 4?
Never say never. I'm lucky. I love what I do, and I love working with people that we work with. So, there's still exciting times ahead.
Yeah. And what makes it so exciting for you, this cybersecurity journey over all these years?
I think it's perhaps the unpredictability of it, because it is always unpredictable. I love building things, and I love seeing people grow and succeed.
And is that particular to cybersecurity? The unpredictability is there, but would you also be a good founder in the finance sector?
I doubt it. I think you've got to be. I think you've got to be passionate about your subject, and I love cyber. Cyber's been good to me, so I see no reason to actually change.
What would you say to somebody that's now 20 and is juggling maybe between going into cyber or software development or maybe finance? What makes it so appealing, a career in cybersecurity?
I think cybersecurity is such a dynamic environment. Things are changing every single day, and we can see some big shifts coming, and AI is one of those big shifts. So I think it's a career that's going to have longevity, it's going to have variety, and it's going to be challenging. So hey, why wouldn't you start that?
Yeah, the longevity is also an important aspect, of course. And this is not something, it's not a one-day fly. This is going to stay for the foreseeable future, at least.
Absolutely. Well,
yeah. Oh, super nice. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom within 25 years, all the things you've done and see, and how many people you helped in the sector. So I really want to thank you for being in the district with us and sharing your journey. It's really inspiring, and I hope more and more people feel inspired to work in cybersecurity, but also take the leap of faith to become an entrepreneur. And we're definitely going to follow the journey of Censornet. I think you also want to conquer the rest of Europe, so we're probably going to see the name more and more often. And we always end the podcast with one last question. So I also want to ask you this question. And that is, if you can send one signal message to all the CISOs across the world, what would be this message?
Don't trust Microsoft.
Okay. Very beautiful. You might have some angry callers later today. And can you elaborate on that?
Well, hey, you just got to Google.
That's harsh, right? In the same sentence, don't trust Microsoft and Google it.
It is harsh, but I think Microsoft's done some great things. I think some of the recent reports that have come out. There's a paper being written by the US government. It's worth a read, and it talks about some of the threats. But too often, organizations have thought, "I'll just buy Microsoft and I'm going to be secure." That's not the case. So.
Yeah. And is there one final closing statement that you want to send or share with the listeners?
It's a closing statement. Yeah, I think trust nothing. Trust nothing.
Okay, like a zero trust policy.
Zero
trust policy. Okay, no, thank you. That's an interesting and worrying statement, but I think in this sector it's important.
Absolutely.
So, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I hope to do this again in a couple of years and see what you're working on then.
Lawrence, it'll be a pleasure.
Nice. Thanks
you.
Thanks very much. See you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Stay safe, stay curious, and until next time in the district.